Calico Jack wasn't a great fighter. Come to think of it, he wasn't a very good navigator either. In fact, Calico Jack probably made less money than I do making these videos. Still, he would be remembered as a true pirate legend. But why? Perhaps it's because Jack was the first pirate to create the flag that is now synonymous with all pirates. The skull with 2 crossed swords, that is. Or maybe because he was one of the only pirates who successfully incorporated women into his crew. Calico Jack was born John Rackham in 1682, somewhere in England. The first historical mention of his presence comes from his serving as a quartermaster on a pirate ship known as the Ranger under the captaincy of Charles Vane. As I mentioned earlier, Jack wasn't a fighter, nor was he particularly skilled at sailing, but his strengths came from his cunning deceptions. In 1718, the crew were on their way home from a long, grueling pirate raid, where their supplies were low and their ship was in dire need of repair. They crossed paths with a French warship that was twice the size of the Ranger, and the crew urged Captain Charles Vane to attack. But Vane was a seasoned commander, and he knew the limitations of his ship and his crew, so he opted for a retreat. This would cause discord in the crew, and being the opportunist that Calico Jack was, he accused Vane of being a poor leader. He riled the crew up, inciting them to believe that there were riches and treasures aboard the warship that they could have taken had Vane not fled. He sold them dreams that had they captured the warship, they'd have been in possession of a vessel that would see them conquer the Caribbean Sea. Whether this was nonsense or not, the crew lapped it up, and soon, more than 2/3 of the crew were rooting for Jack to be their captain. Captain Vane was soon denounced, and he and his supporters were kicked off the ship, making way for Captain Calico Jack.
And Jack Rackham? Did you know him too? I heard a story that Jack Rackham outsmarted Captain Flint to capture a Spanish treasure galleon right out from under him.
Yeah. Knew him too. And believe it or not, that story is true.
What about Charles Vane?
Charles Vane was my closest friend in the world.
Calico Jack continued his pirate campaigns by plundering small merchant and transport ships, but he'd soon find his prize in the form of the Kingston, a large Jamaican ship with lots of loot. Foolishly though, Jack and his men took the boat in clear view of Port Royal Harbour, and so if this was meant to be a stealth mission, it failed miserably. Pretty much every merchant and their mothers saw Jack take the ship. Outraged by this, a pirate hunting ship was organised by the merchants, consisting of merciless bounty hunters and just about anyone who was sick of pirates in the declining golden age. The pirate hunting ship wouldn't catch up to Jack until 2 months after, where Jack had anchored the Kingston off the coast of Cuba. Luckily, Calico Jack and his crew were offshore during the arrival of the pirate hunters, and they fled into the forest to hide. The Kingston was reclaimed, however, and all the plunder and loot that was on board went with it too. During the night, Jack came up with a sneaky ploy to escape. It should be noted that the pirate hunters had also come to the coast of Cuba with an English sloop that they had captured, and so with rowing boats, Jack and his crew rowed to this sloop and overpowered the guards. From there, they were able to sail away, much to the ignorance of the warship and the bulk of the pirate hunters. Now at a loss, Jack and his crew decided to seek amnesty from the governor of the Bahamas, Woodes Rogers, who was basically handing out absolution to anyone who wanted to start a new and honest life. Jack and his crew would plead to Rogers, explaining that Captain Charles Vane had forced them into piracy, and that in actuality, they were decent folk. It's noted that Rogers probably knew that Jack was lying through his teeth, but Rogers had developed a vendetta against Charles Vane, who had refused his offer of amnesty and even fired shots at him. Therefore, he took Jack's word for it and granted him the king's pardon, with the stipulation that if he returned to piracy, he would be put to death. It was here that Calico Jack would meet none other than Anne Bonny, who he would begin a tryst with. The only problem was that Anne was married to a sailor named James Bonny, who happened to work for Woodes Rogers as an informant. James Bonny would discover their affair and alert Rogers, demanding that she be whipped and imprisoned for her infidelity, as you do when you find out your wife's cheating on you. Jack offered to pay James to divorce Anne, but he was declined. To be honest though, he'd have been better off taking the cash. You see, Jack would break his pardon from Woodes Rogers and steal a ship from the harbour, and he and Anne with a new crew would set sail. Jack would operate with Bonny on the Caribbean Sea by plundering merchants and small vessels which he was accustomed to. He would seek to recruit other members to his force with the intention of growing his number, and was soon known for creating chaos wherever he went. Jack would also have another female pirate known as Mary Read, who would disguise herself as a man on board. By the late 1720s, Woodes Rogers would mark Calico Jack and his crew as wanted pirates, going on to personally name him, Anne and Mary as dangerous wanted criminals. Pirate hunter Jonathan Barnett took up the call and tracked Jack down to Bright Harbour Bay, Jamaica, in late 1720. At the time of his arrival, Jack and his crew were drunk from a round of partying in celebration of a recent successful raid. Barnett and his men would storm the ship and encountered the drunken pirates, most of them too intoxicated to do much else other than stumble about. It's said that Anne Bonny and Mary Read were the only two members of the crew to put up a fight, leading a portion of the crew in a short melee with Barnett. But Barnett's men proved to be stronger, and the entirety of Jack's crew were imprisoned and sentenced to death. Jack was hung and gibbeted on 18th of November 1720 in Port Royal. It's said that Anne Bonny, the love of his life, was so disappointed in his failure that she told him, "Had you fought like a man, you would not have been hung like a dog." Not one to mince words, huh? If you like that, you should check out my Anne Bonny video, where I discuss her life and her mysterious disappearance from history. Calico Jack would be hung at the entrance to Port Royal as a warning to all other pirates. The rest of his male crew were also hung, along with those who were caught drinking with him upon the point of his capture. As always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought about Jack's life. Our next pirate murdered his best friend for a woman, and served with the legendary Blackbeard in his final days. Until the next time.